So welcome again to today's revision. Um, this is the second to last revision because tomorrow morning we will be doing our final revision for the subject. All right, again, as I mentioned, we will be looking at the 2017 January paper one. So let us make a start. First question, which is based on significant figures. The question asks you how many significant figures are in the quantity 25.92 meter cube. So between questions, I will be pausing because of internet connection. Some persons, their responses may take a bit to come in. And once in a while, if you see, notice the screen is changing, and we haven't finished with the question is simply because somebody will have just entered the classroom, and I just need to accept them. All right, so I'm seeing two answers, two popular responses rather. I'm seeing the number 2 as an answer, a response, and I am also seeing 4. So I thought that this first question here, every person will have gotten it correct. The question is asking you for significant figures and not decimal points. So you can change your answer if you think that you're noticing what was your error. All right, so it is 2 decimal places, but the question is not asking for that. It is asking how many significant figures, and each number on screen is a significant number. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So the answer there is E. Is D, sorry, 4. All right, so question 1 there is 4. Question 2. And whenever I put a response, if you're not okay with the response or you don't understand, you can send in your question in the chat. All right, so this is a fairly simple question. Everyone is saying the correct answer. It is B, 7.5. All right, because remember again, when you're taking readings, you must take it at the bottom of the meniscus, which will correspond to that number there. So we go to here now, question 3. This question is based on the topic lens, and it talks about, or asks you rather, where do we place the object if we want to locate a real image using a convergent lens? All right, so some of you still, I notice, still sending in responses, so I'm going to give you a chance to attempt, and then I give you the answer. All right, so let's go through the options. If we place the object between the focal point and the lens, we will be getting a virtual image here. All right, just a recap here of your notes. If you place it at the focal point, then basically we have an image at infinity. So therefore, this is not an answer. This is not an option for the answer. So basically, if you look at it, it is 3 only, which is C. All right, so the persons who were given other options, please note that question will ask you for a real image. All right, one is given, will be given you a virtual image. Question 4. Question 4 deals with the measuring instruments. It asks you which instrument is best suitable to measure the diameter of a human hair. Okay, so seeing all the responses, D, good. So it is correct. It is a micrometer screw gauge. Question 5 deals with the density of liquids. All right, so whenever you send in any response, just type the question and the response, because I don't know if that was your number 4 response or is your current number 5 response. All right, so I'm seeing A, C, D as responses. All right, those are the popular ones so far. So let's go through the rationale there. Now remember that so liquids that are less dense, if you have two liquids or you have, yeah, so we have two liquids here. The one at the top is the less dense and the one at the bottom is the more dense. All right, you'll have to remember that. So let's read through the question. It says here that a Q is denser than P. So we expect P at the top, Q at the bottom here. But less dense than R. So Q is less dense than R. So it means that Q is going to be on top of R. So the response is, or the correct answer is going to be P, Q, R in that order, which is P. All right, so again, persons who will have been seeing C or D, I hope you realize the error there. All right, so we go to question 6. All right, so question 6 seems very easy for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 10 responses so far, all of them with the same answer. All right, so there are 23 participants in the group right now in this chat. Again, I'm saying, can you participate? Send in your response, make a guess if you don't know the answer. So this question tells us what an astronaut he has 70 grams, that is his mass, when he's standing on the moon. Now, when he returns to Earth, his mass is still going to be the same. So to find his weight, we use a formula W is equal to mg So that will equal to 70 multiplied by 10 roughly, which is equal to 700 newtons. So our answer there is D. All right, so all those who said D, you're correct. All right, so we go to the next question. Question 7. All right, so you have a few persons responding. You have the correct answer so far. Persons who are responding. Just type in your grade for me. Are all of you in grade 11 or there's some grade 10 students? I just realized there's some grade 10 from Mackenzie High with us. So just type in your grade for me. Let me just see something here. So there's probably some grade 10 students who didn't reach this topic. All right, so we have a mixture of the grade 10 and grade 11. All right, so let me just go through the explanation for this question. So it will benefit persons who don't know what is the answer. So this question is saying that when we apply a force of L, of F, sorry, if we have a force of F, we end up with a final length of L plus X. And the original length, question tells you also, original length is equal to L. Therefore, the extension will equal to L plus X minus L, which is equal to X. So basically, we have an extension of X. So if we have the force, we expect that the extension is also going to be half. So therefore, the final length will equal to the original length plus the extension, which is X over 2. So the answer is going to be D, L plus X over 2. Further, so I see most persons will have said D though, so I guess that you have that or you understand, but there were a few persons who were saying I see B and C as responses also. Question 8. So this question deals with basic vectors. All right, so I have this response I have so far. I have A, D, C. So I have 3 out of the 4 responses so far. So let's work it together. All the others are probably still working it. So it tells us here that we have a ring R, and this ring here is being pulled by 3 forces, L, M, and N. So the question is asking us for this ring to be stationary, what must happen basically? So this force N will equal to when these two forces combine together. So for the question basically asking is calculate the resultant force of L and N. So we can complete the parallelogram when we learn the parallelogram rule, applying it here. So basically we're trying to find for this here. Um, so we can say that this is N because this here will equal to N. This here will equal to L because that's the side here. So using Pythagoras theorem, we'll see that so N squared will equal to L squared plus M squared. And that answer will be B. All right, so any question on this here? No, so we see that we're good. Question 9. It asks us basically what is the definition of linear momentum. Oh, no, sorry, it also has the unit. So it's asking you either for the definition or the unit. Which one is correct? All right, so a lot of persons they have the correct answer here. So the answer there is that linear momentum is equal to the product of the mass and velocity of an object. Now, if you were asked what was the unit, because the question asks you later on if these two are any of is correct, it's basically if mass is kilograms and velocity is meters per second. So this here will have been the unit. All right, so this is a unit, and this is basically the formula or the definition. Question 10. This is a repeat from the last paper that we will have worked. Which feature is present in a stable, well-designed racing car? But yes, so that is A. Glad that you remember the answer. Question 11, it's a bit lengthy of a question, so you can take your time and read it through. Which of the following statements represent ways in which energy may be used more efficiently and economically in homes? All right, so do we wash fewer and larger loads, use a solar water heater instead of electrical heater, hang clothes out to dry in the sun instead of using electric dryer? All right, so I notice here that some persons are saying it's either C or D, meaning that you're not sure about one. So persons who are saying C, why you don't think one is correct? So we all agree that two is correct and three is correct. So why are you saying that one is not correct? I see some person are saying it is B, but no, it is all right. So someone is saying that probably if you use too much load, it may damage the washing machine. Another person saying it in probably other words, but the same thing they're saying. All right. So the first part of the answer is saying that we washing fewer representing less times probably. All right. So I have an thing here that we can wash using hand instead and not you can wash with your hand instead and not a washing machine. All right, so I know the internet is a bit unstable, so some persons probably still typing in. All right, I see a counter put in here that our hands are not so efficient though. It is what was used long ago. All right, so option one is basically I understand what persons are saying, but this is what the syllabus was trying to, or the examiner was trying to ask you. Washing fewer times mean that so instead of washing on Monday a couple of pieces of clothing, Tuesday another couple, Wednesday another couple, Thursday another couple, it was basically saying that so on one day you try to wash out most of those clothes. All right, so the answer there is D, and I understand what you some of you are trying to tell me, but this was what the notes in the teacher's guide, because these questions are basically from the syllabus or from our content that we're supposed to teach you. So this point here was basically trying to emphasize that instead of washing on separate days, we try to do our washing on one day. All right, so yes, there are a few other responses coming through with the hand washing. Hands can be time consuming, etc. All right, so let's go on to the next question. Question 12. Question 12 is a repeat, so probably just looking at it to remember the answer. So then let's read through your responses. Okay, right, so it is C. Yeah. Most of you have that, so probably it's a typo. Some persons are saying another letter. The full formers will probably, it is a guess for you right now because you haven't done that topic, probably some schools haven't finished that topic. Question 13. Okay, I'm still seeing 12 answers coming through again. Some person have messaged me that your internet connection is not so good, so that is why sometimes their responses are coming through a bit late. All right, so There are a few persons. Well, let me just see what answers there. I have D, B, A, D. So it seems like I'm having all options except C. So everybody agree that C is wrong. But when you were doing this topic in school, it was actually a common question that you were asked. Why do you hold a string with probably adding cloth to it and things like that? And it's simply to reduce the pressure on the fingers, right? Because we just the force is going to be the same because it is the same parcel. However, what we're doing here is that we're increasing the area, the surface area, because remember the force is pressure, sorry, is equal to force over area. So what we're doing there is simply that we're increasing the area to create a smaller force, smaller pressure. All right, so the answer there is D, that we reduce the pressure on the fingers. All right, yes, I see someone just message. Same point that the force is distributed to a wider area, which is correct. Question 14, I think this was a repeat. This is a repeat question from the last paper that we worked. So we're using the formula EH is equal to ML, and this will be MLV. Good. So basically, we multiplying the mass and this is the mass value and the specific latent heat of vaporization. So we will have a numerical value of 2.26 times 10 to the 4 joules. So is it that are we absorbing energy or are we giving out energy during this process here? So we look back what the question is talking about. It is water converted to steam. So in that process, water is going to absorb the heat energy to convert to steam. So question 14 is A. Rightfully, I see several persons having A as the answer there. So we go to question 15. All right, so question 15, it's a common answer, so there's no dispute what is the answer here. So when we apply heat to this point here, that is at Y, when we apply heat energy to the point of Y, the heat energy is going to travel to Z, from Y to Z, and also Y to X. So the answer there is indeed is A, right? So everybody is correct here. All right, so we will finish 15. That's a quarter of the question so far. Just a little bit of note here. If you're in grade 10 or you're going to be in a new grade 10, that is, you're going to be writing an exam in 2021 or 2022, and you want to join a physics and or chemistry online class, I normally give lessons. You can always WhatsApp me on this number here to get more details. All right, so, or if you know anybody who is going to be writing the exam next year or the other year, and who is interested in joining an online class, you can always just recommend me. All right, you can just give them my number, 6258445, and they can send me a WhatsApp message. Good, so because when I check back there, all the grade 10 students are already in the lesson. Who will have said that they're in grade 10 right now. So we move on to question 16. Question is asking you, what is heat capacity? All right, so I'm seeing well, most persons say D. There are a few responses for C. But the answer is D. All right, let me just clarify what is C. It says here, required to change the state of of a substance to another state. This here will not be heat capacity, but latent heat. All right, so that's a different concept there. So question 16 is D. Question 17. So this here is our gas equation or our gas formula. So the question is asking you a few pointers on which of these things here are correct. So let's just go through each one of them. The mass of gas being constant, that is true, but when you just look at all the options here, you see that all of them have one, so you'll already know if one is correct. The temperatures T1 and T2 must be in Kelvin. This is true also. Pressure 1 and pressure 2 must be measured in millimeters mercury. This is not true. It can be measured in or expressed in other units. The units of pressure 1 and volume 1 must be the same as those for pressure 2 and volume 2. That is true. Whatever unit you have for pressure 1 must be the same unit for pressure 2. And likewise, whatever unit is for volume 1 must be the same unit for volume 2. So 4 is also correct. So it is 1, 2, and 4, which is C. So question 17 is C. We go on to question 18. All right, so I'm seeing the same answer response. That is simply because a few days ago, we worked a past paper and this question was there. So it is A, right? Without any doubt. Question 19. This here deals with the experiment of determining specific heat capacity by method of mixtures. I'm sure that all of you, well, all the grade 11 students will have completed this as an experiment. Whether you write it up for as an SBA, but you had to do the experiment, right? So what did you do to the metal? Well, in this question here, you talk about brass. In schools, we probably use copper or some other metal. But what we normally do, and it is C. I'm seeing everyone saying C. We place it in boiling water, in a boiling water bath for roughly 10 to 15 minutes. Question 20. Again, question 20 is a repeat from the people we worked the last day. For those persons who were not here the last day, or who wasn't present when we were working the last paper, you can check on my YouTube channel. I have uploaded the video there, so you can always go and view back the paper. All right, so everyone recalls the answer. It is C. No need for me to go through back the working, and the last day will have worked out or show you why the answer is C. And I see everyone saying it is C, right? So it means that you remember the answer at least, if not the working. Question 21, another repeat question. Again, this is why it is stressed that you work as many papers as you can. You know, it is just 2 days away from your exam, but if you can probably manage to work from 2000 to 2020, which is a fair amount of papers to work, then you should be smiling a lot on Friday in the exam room. All right, so yes, 21 is B. This is a question that we'll have looked at the last day. Question 22. They ask you here, what is specific latent heat of vaporization? It is the energy required to change 1 kg of water at something for something else. All right, so from the responses, I'm seeing that A is definitely not an answer. Are you thinking about? All right, so I have a couple of B as answer. I have a few C and most D's, and D is correct. I'm sorry, no, D is not correct. It is C. I'm just looking there. Yeah, it is C, right? It is water at 100. So we have water at 100 degrees Celsius. We'll go on to, this is water liquid. We'll go to water as gas at also 100 degrees Celsius. But remember that there will not be any temperature change. The temperature is going to remain constant until all the water in its liquid state changes to water in the gaseous state. All right, so question 22 is C. But I see a lot of persons saying D, so D is not correct. Ensure that you clarify that misconception. Question 23. The question is asking basically about the glass house effect. It's a lengthy question, so I'll give you a chance to read it through. All right, so I write a little note on the corner there. So this is basically what happens in a glass house. We have short wavelength of infrared rays coming from the sun. They're going to pass through on the glass and enter the glass house. Inside the glass house now, the objects there gain that heat energy, it is heated up, and it formed long wavelength of infrared rays. And these rays here cannot escape back the glass house. All right, so which option will you be going with now? So going through the options, it is not that short wavelength are unable to penetrate the glass. Long wavelength coming from the sun, that is not true. Short wavelength are radiated from the objects, that is not true also, right? It is actually long wavelength. So it is D. But long wavelength infrared rays, which are radiated from the objects within the glass house, are unable to penetrate back the glass. All right, so that answer there is D. So we go on now to 24. And again, we're using the formula EH is equal to ML. And this time it is going to be MLF, right? Because this is latent theta fusion. So multiplying these two numbers again, we'll end up with numerical value of 3400. So the unit is going to be kilojoules. So is it that 3400 kilojoules of heat is absorbed, or is it given out? So it means here, and this here is water is freezing. So when water is being free, water is freezing, does it absorb the heat energy or does it release the energy? So let me just go through here, and because a lot of persons are well, it is split right now between C and D. Some persons are saying C, and some are saying D. So we have ice to water. For ice to water, let's look at the at this part here first. This is number one. And number two is water to ice. So ice to water, do we need to add heat or do we need to take away heat? So is it that water heat energy is absorbed or is it given out? For ice to water, you have a piece of ice and it is changing to water. Is the ice gaining heat energy or is it good? So I'm seeing what a person saying it is absorbed. All right, so the opposite is going to happen for here. So question 24, what is going to be your final answer now? All right, so I see that most persons have changed their answer now to D. All right, so D is correct. Question 25. So question 25 deals with the terms louder and pitch. All right, so let's go through what loudness means and what pitch means. So loudness has to do with amplitude. And pitch has to do with frequency. So out of these two here, which one has the, let's look at amplitude first. You can see that Q has a higher amplitude than P. So Q is louder. So from that, we can take out A and B. So the next part we have to look at which one has a higher pitch, or meaning which one has a greater frequency. So frequency has to do amount of waves per second or per any unit time. And the question tells you that how the graphs are drawn with the same scale. So we can compare them, and let's say at this point here, if you take a ruler, I can't draw with a ruler on the screen here, so but if we draw like that there, we can see that P, the wave P has already one oscillation, whereas wave Q does not get half. So it tells us here that P has a higher pitch. So the answer there is going to be C. All right, I see several persons saying C. I'm just going through the explanation. For some persons, probably will be seeing the video later on, or some of you right now who are not too certain why you are saying that as your answer. So we go on to question 26. All right, so I have for 26, I have so far A, D, B, C. So I have actually all responses here already. So I'll give you a chance to think it through again. So the question is asking us, what is the frequency? And we should remember that frequency is equal to 1 of the period. The period is the time taken for one wave. So we look and see here, how long is one wave? So this is here, the point here. A lot of you might be tempted to say, you know what, this thing is going to be 1 over 20. However, if you look here, this is not time. This is a measurement of distance or position as it is saying here. All right, so this was supposed to be time. All right, this was a graph with time, measuring seconds. Then we could have used this formula. So for this graph that is shown, or the wave that is shown, it is unknown, right? We cannot calculate the frequency based on what is expressed on the diagram. All right, so the answer there is going to be D, unknown. So we go to question 27. Now, if you're not too certain about an answer, probably can just put a guess a letter, put an asterisk. So I know that you're just guessing the answer, or you can just put a question mark, meaning that you're not too certain what is the answer. All right, so let me just read out the responses I have so far. So I have an A, B, B, A, D, B, A again. I have another B, A. So it seems like A and B are the popular answers here. Not saying that those are the one or two of them correct, but I'm just saying those are the popular answers. I see someone is trying to raise their hand. If you have a question, just type it in and then, because it's hard for me to just manipulate between the windows here. And by sort of thing, they know what is the answer and they want to explain it to the class, or give some anybody who wants to let you turn on your microphone and you can probably explain to the class. Probably someone who's not too shy to speak. So no one. I see somebody said they're certain that whatever letter they're saying is the correct answer. All right. Person said is very shy. So okay. So let's work. Let's go through together. So we have a girl probably. Her name is Pam, and she's standing 8 meters away from a mirror. She has a vase on top of a table, and the vase is 0.5 meters away from her. So the question is asking you, how far is Pam from the image of the vase, or the vase, whichever word you're using as your pronunciation? So let's try to find out first what is the distance from the vase to the mirror. So let's work along. Somebody, whenever you get an answer, you can probably just type it in. What is the distance rather from the vase to the mirror? Good. So I see several persons realizing what is that distance. Because this entire distance is 8, yes, rightfully, this is going to be 7.5 meters. However, that is not the answers yet. So it means, therefore, that from here to the image of the vase, because that's what we're interested in right now, is another 7.5 meters. So this is image. At this point here, we're going to have an image of vase. But the question is asking you, what is the distance, or how far is Pam from this image here? So this is the image. I'm going to mark it with an X. So what is the distance from Pam? Put another X here. What is that total distance? All right, so some persons realizing what is the answer there now. So those persons who are certain it is D, then you're correct, right? So it will have been 8 meters plus 7.5, which is 15.5 meters. So that answer there is D. All right, so I hope that question is clear now. I think this is a first time you're seeing a question like this here. But so question 28. So it tells us here that an object is placed at the bottom of a tank of water and it is viewed vertically from above, meaning you're looking down straight to the water. Which of the following will be true of the image of that object? So let's go through the options. It is virtual, that is true. It is diminished, meaning that it is smaller, that is not true. Because it will actually be looking looking larger. It is nearer to the eye than the object. That is true also, right? It is going to look closer to you. The answer is 1 and 3. All right, and I'm looking through the responses. I see most persons saying it is C, right? And you're correct. So 28 is C. We go to question 29. It has lots of words, so you can probably take a while, half of a minute to quickly read it through and just make a little note. So whenever you're revising back or you're looking back at the video, it can help assist you. So you can start sending your answers if you know what is the answer. So these are some things that you need to know. Now this is the order of the colors on the spectrum. You're supposed to know that. Roy GBF, probably that's the most popular mnemonic. How to arrange the colors or how to remember the colors. And it tells us here that so it starts from the lowest frequency, going on to the highest frequency, or from the longest wavelength to the shortest wavelength. And then when we look at this diagram here, this would have been the ray of light if it was going through as normal, if you follow the red line. So if you notice here, you will see that so this is how much R will have deviated, and this is how much V will have deviated. And you can see that V actually deviates more or refracts more. So reading through all of the options, you can take your time and read it or read through the options, or again, when you look back at the video, you pause it and you analyze it more. But you'll find that 1 and 2 are correct. All right, so the answer there is A. I see several persons sending A, so you probably have the time to read through and analyze it. So that answer there is A. So we got question 30. So question 30 is telling us that we have a ray of light that is traveling, that's X coming through here. It reaches this point, the circular point, so you can see it. Good. So when this ray of light hits at this boundary here of AC, what happens to it? Do it go in the direction of Q, R, S, or P? So how do we figure that out? Well, at this point here, we'll have to draw a normal. So we draw our normal here. And we'll see that so this angle will be 45 degrees. The question tells you that the critical angle is 42. So the question tells you that our C is equal to 42 degrees. So since this angle here is greater than the critical angle, total internal reflection is going to occur, meaning that so this ray of light is going to reflect in such a way that this angle here will also be 45 degrees. All right, so we'll have an answer there of E, which is A. All right, so again, remember that our total internal reflection is going to occur because this ray of light is inside of the more dense medium. That's the first thing. And the second is that the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle. So something called total internal reflection is going to occur. Question 31. So now that we have wrapped up half of the question, you can take a pause as we're talking or as you're selecting your answers. I see that we have a few more persons, and I'm seeing some new names messaging. So let's just see what schools we have here with us today. You can probably just type in your school's name. Let me just write it down as we go along. So we see we have JC. So we see we have Mackenzie High. I have Tabor, Bushlat, and Bushlat Secondary. This is the West Coast Broadbeach Bushlat. Mackenzie again, Mackenzie, Tabor, Bushlat once again. Right, so the line part persons in turn up today. Line part and multi. If someone from complete said they'll be turning up today, probably that person's not here. All right, so let's get on back on track. So question 31, ask you here quickly, which of the following ways requires a medium of transmission? Yes, that answer there is the sound waves, right? And these three here can all travel through a vacuum. However, a sound wave needs a medium of transmission. 32. Right, so I'm seeing 32, a lot of persons saying C, as they heard me say. So just let's look what's happening here. So we have a ray of light traveling from the medium. Oh, lines supposed to be reaching at the point. You can assume that it's here. So here, at critical angle. So this is C. So whenever the ray of light strikes the boundary at the critical angle, you're going to have the angle of refraction is going to be 90 degrees. Now, the question is asking you, and I think this is where a person probably didn't really question well. I'm just trying to like the color. It is asking you what is the refractive index for light traveling from the medium to air. So it is asking you for refractive index from medium to air. So you will know that the refractive index is equal to sine I over sine r. Sine I is c, so it will be sine c divided by sine r, and r is 90 degrees. Sine 90 works out to be 1, so this is basically sine c over 1, which is equal to sine c. All right, so this answer there is actually D, and not this answer here. Now, if you're working for this answer here, this will have been the refractive index from here to the medium. Because from here, then this would have been looking like the angle of incidence, and this would have been the angle of refraction. But the question is asking you from the medium to here. All right, so question 32 there is D. And probably you'll have done an experiment to determine the refractive index of a glass block. You will have found out that so the refractive index from medium to here is equal to 1 over from here to medium. Right, so the numbers that are presented in your textbook are the refractive index from here to the medium. But this question is asking you, what is the refractive index from medium to here? All right, so I hope that you make the correction. Question 33. Tell so that someone burnt a piece of paper by adjusting the height of a lens. It was found that the distance between the lens and the paper was 10 cm. The question is asking you, what is the focal length in centimeters for the lens? The answer there is indeed, I see a few persons already said it is B. The focal length will equal to the distance between the paper and the lens. All right, and we will have that where the paper is going to burn up by it. That is the less distance. All right, so we go to question 34. It asks you which of the following diagrams will represent diffraction of water waves. So the question is asking what is diffraction. We have to know that. This person here is showing reflection. This last one here is showing refraction. So it is basically 2, which is showing diffraction, material is passing through a gap. All right, so it is 2 only, which is B. Go on to the next question. Question is asking you what is the wavelength of the transverse wave shown. So let's look at each option, P to Q. So from here to here, that is not correct. P to R, from here to here, again, that is not correct. From P to S, so from here to here, and yes, we can see it, so that is basically one wave. All right, and if you want, you can just double check. Q to R, from Q to R here is not the wavelength, right? That is actually just half of the wavelength. Question 45. Question 45 is C. 36. So we'll have I'll have mentioned this just now, this concept. We have here that so this light ray is traveling from the more dense to the less dense, And this angle here, the angle of incidence is greater than critical angle. Critical angle is given as 42 degrees, sorry, 45 degrees. Shooting 42, but for this particular glass, it is 45. But we still see at all the angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle. So what is going to happen? Total internal reflection, I mentioned just now. So simply means that all the rays of light are going to reflect back inwards. All right, and it's still going to reflect at the same angle of 50 degrees. So the answer here is that the light ray is going to be reflected. Moving on, question asks you which is true about diverging lens. I'm just going to sketch it at the top. So have a quick look. Okay, so question asks you, well, the options rather. You can look and see which is true. Thinner at the center than at the edge, and you can see right away that is true. So A is the response. Okay, you can see here is thinner compared to at the edges. Next question. And this question actually formula, some of you got it wrong the last day. So we see that this is a parallel circuit. So basically we're using the formula 1 over R total is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2, which is equal to half plus quarter, which is equal to 3/4. So 1 over R total is equal to this here. So R total will equal to the inverse, which is equal to 4 divided by 3, which is equal to 1.3 recurrent. So we have an answer of B, 1.3 grams. All right, so persons who have responded, I see you have the correct answer. This is a very simple one. I'm simply asking what is power equal to in terms of current, potential difference, time, if you want to use time. But we all know that P is equal to IB, the popular formula that you use. So we have a answer of C. Question 40, you will have seen this question before. We got it last week, but not last week, on the last day. Good, so a lot of you taking advantages. It is, you're sending your response quickly now. So it is B, and the glass rod is going to lose electrons and become positively charged. Question 41 again, I repeat from the last paper we worked. All right, so yes, it is A. Question 42. You see that we have, yeah, this is also a repeat question. We have two bulbs in series. We look across our options and see which option there has two bulbs in series also. And we see that that answer is C. Question screen was asking you about an ideal ammeter. So we know that the ammeters are placed in series. So when it is in series, we expect it to have zero resistance, allowing current to continue flowing. All right, so this question is based on electromagnets and ask you which of the following is not going to work versus increase in the strength of an electromagnet. All right, and you can see clearly that that is A. If we increase the current, we expect the magnetic field to increase. Again, if we increase the number of turns through and we place a soft iron core inside, again, we expect the strength to increase. All right, but if we increase the resistance, then it means that less current is going to flow. Hence, the magnetic field is not going to be as strong. Which of the following is true about a voltmeter? All right, so again, voltmeters, it is in parallel. We're looking at either one of these two here, and we expect that the resistance is going to be high, right? Because we don't want the current to be flowing through the voltmeter. So the answer there is B. And again, we'll avoid this question. This is this question in the paper that we'll avoid the last week. Likewise, this one question here, and this is another question that you'll have seen before. All right, so yes, indeed it is B is the response here, is the answer. If we had used an ionic solution, just to let you know, if we had used an ionic solution or an electrolyte, this will have been the graph that we will be getting. All right, so option D. If the question would have said which graph represents an ionic solution, it would have been D, just for you to know. Good. So what is this is question 47. I'm just going to work it out and we're using in your answers. All right, so working this out here, we will get an answer of 10 volts. So the answer indeed is C. I see most persons saying it is C, so correct here. Remember, don't just memorize the answers, right? Ensure that you know how you're getting the answers. You know your formula, you can calculate and use the formula. Because you don't want in an exam, you see a total different set of numbers and you start writing down. You're looking for 10 and you want to know what's happening. Right, so ensure you understand the working and how you're getting your answers. All right, so we are approaching the end of the paper already. Just to remind you again. But if you're writing exams in 2021 or 2022, and you want to join a physics or chemistry class, online class, like my class is online using the same mode that we're using right now, the Zoom classrooms. Or if you know somebody who wants to join in, you can tell them, give them my number and just let them send me a WhatsApp message. And I'll explain to them or to the person, whoever is interested, how to go about joining the class. All right, so move on to the next question. So question asks you, which of the following statements about alternating current is true? Oh, sorry, that's a different question we will do. Can you check back if I missed question? Just make a miss a few slides. All right, yeah. So this question is dealing with, is basically asking what is going to be P and Q if we have, which is an iron rod, if we have a current being passed around. So if you have the question paper, please match back the question. This is actually question 51 on the exam paper. It's probably I just mix up the numbers somewhere along the line. But this is actually question 51, right? But we'll use whatever is on this slide to answer. So remember that this is a plastic pipe, right? This current here, or the wire, is not touching this metal PQ. Okay, the wire is actually touching the plastic pipe. This part here is a plastic pipe. Right, so a lot of persons are saying they're not too sure what is the answer. And the person making a guess. What's going to happen is that this part here that is attached or closest to the positive, and this is negative. So when one that is closest to the positive is going to be the south pole, and the one that is closest to the negative is going to be the north pole. All right, so the answer there is going to be D. All right, so this question is asking us which of the following statements about insulators is not true. I think we worked a similar question to this before. Okay, yes, I see several persons start sending your answers. So it is indeed B. All right, insulators do not have free electrons. There are electrons moving around freely. All right, so this question was actually question 51. And I think what happened earlier is that I probably mixed up. I copy and paste a question 2 times here. So this here is not when you will be matching your question on your question paper. If you have a question paper, a copy of the question paper, this is actually the 49 is something else, and you can check it back when you if you on your copy. All right, so you just make that note here. The question 51, this is the original question 51. And we have said just now that this answer here is D. All right, so you can check back. I'm missing questions 48 and 49. We go to question 52. All right, so most persons are saying the correct answer there, or you're guessing. I see some asterisks on that letter also. It is actually yes. Option C, which is when a magnetic field is going to be produced inside the coil, then we have that insulated wire wrapped around the M core. Question 53. So question 53 is asking us why is it that we use AC current, well, alternating current rather, and we use AC rather than DC, which is direct current. Right, so I see options B, C, A so far. But the answer there is B. All right, so make a note again, go through back your content, your notes. Remember that when revising, you use the study guide as the all the work that you need to know for your exams in a very concise manner. Also use it for study guides and you can just correspond back your responses. If you have any doubt about any question that we have discussed today, feel free to just send me a message and I'll probably see how I can explain that to you in a better way. However, if any of the working is not clear. So question 54, again, we'll have worked this question before. Ask us which is isotope for this nuclei. You know that isotopes are going to have the same atomic number. So we're looking to see which one has Z also. And we see that that is D. But it has the same atomic number, but a different mass number. In this case, it is A, and here we have X plus 2. I'm sorry, A plus 2. Question 55. So question 55 is going to give us a proton is going to equal to 90 because that's the atomic number, and neutrons will equal to 234 minus 90, which is equal to 144. So we have an answer of C. Also, I think we'll avoid this question before. The question is asking us, basically gives an introduction, but asks you which of alpha particles, beta particles, or gamma rays will not be deviated from the original path it passed through a magnetic field. The alpha and beta are going to be deviated. However, gamma radiation or gamma rays will not be deviated either through a magnetic or an electric field. So the answer there is B. 57. So I'm going to do the working, but again, you try to send in your responses. So you can see that after one half-life, half is going to be remaining. After 2, it's going to be a quarter. After 3, 1/8. All right, so basically we had to undergo 3 half-lives. And the question tells us that one half-life is equal to 20 days. So therefore, 3 half-lives is equal to 20 times 3, which is equal to 60 days. All right, so the answer there is going to be B, 60 days. Fifty-eight, we are approaching the end of the paper. Which of the following describes two properties of an alpha particle? So we should know that alpha particles are positively charged and they are not so penetrating. They can be stopped by actually a thick paper or thick pieces of paper or even a thin aluminum foil can stop it. So positively charged, so we're looking at either B or D, very penetrating, not very penetrating. So the answer there is D, positive charge and not very penetrating. All right, so we move on to question 59. A repeat again of the last paper that we worked. Here we see the mass numbers remain the same. And we see here the number here decreased by 1. So minus 1. And this is basically an electron, which is E. Final question. Let's hope that everybody present in the class now can respond. I go through the last couple very quickly. We've been working for an hour, 40 minutes already. So let me see everyone in the classroom present right now, just sending your responses. Right, so I have a common answer, and yes, indeed, that answer there is correct. So the answer there indeed is D. All right, so that is going to bring into to today's class. Just a reminder here that we will be having final revision tomorrow. We'll start at 9:30, and we'll be using the same ID and password, the same Zoom ID and password. And again, if I go through any part in today's class a bit too fast and you're not too certain but a response or the explanation wasn't too clear, you can send me a message and I'll see how fast I can get back a reply to you. All right, so tomorrow, why we starting a bit early, I don't want us to end up close to lunchtime. People get very hungry and tired coming on to the lunchtime there. So I put together some very valuable questions that will summarize all the different papers and probably be the best preparation for you for your exam. All right, so 9:30 tomorrow, look out and you can log in there for your final revision class. I just want to encourage you again, continue studying. I know that the exam is close by, but use your textbook along with it while you're studying. Just don't work past papers. Ensure that you are revising things that are probably not coming in some of those papers. All right, so any questions from any person? Any comments? Okay, see, yes, probably I'll have to try and launch pronunciation. Oh, Alder, I think I pronounced your last name. Alder, you're welcome. I'm happy to help. Since the last time I haven't heard trying to pronounce your name.